What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on Second City Gridiron. Follow at Second City Gridiron for all the Bears news as we are 4 weeks into the season. How time flies. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you get the audio-only versions on Spotify, iTunes, like, subscribe, do the same there. Look up the great articles our cohorts are writing at Windy City Gridiron, at WC Gridiron, of course, on social media. Making Monsters, Bear and Balanced, Bears Banter, the list goes on and on. Keep up with our great programming on Second City Gridiron. And, of course, 85 at 40, celebrating the 85 Bears. Bill will have a new episode with Gary Fensick, I believe, this week, who was, of course, great safety for the Bears back then. I'm Evan Mack, at The Real Evan Mack, of course, joined, as always, by my co-host. He explained what 6-7 means in the pre-show meeting for me. I still don't really get it. He also told me about 2 N-words I couldn't use on air, much like our president. And his favorite Bad Bunny song is Nueva York. He is at Ross Reed on social media. It is Ross Reed, folks. What's happening, buddy?
Thank you. That's close to my favorite Bad Bunny song. I got the little Bad Bunny look going on today.
You kind of do. Bonito. Big news for Bonito.
Yes.
Good news for Bad Bunny for sure. Again, on the note of our fair president, probably mad about it, but we'll get to all that later on. First of all, Cubs win. Cubs up 1-0 against the Padres in the wild card, which is exciting. Nice home game. I got invited and I couldn't go at 2:00. Gosh darn it. These 2:00 games are really. Yeah.
Listen, can we digress for a second?
March Madness, like, what are we doing, MLB?
Exactly. I'm like, listen, it was packed. So maybe these people had jobs, maybe they called off, but
everybody called in sick. Yeah.
Hey, you're in a city like Chicago and you have a game in the middle of the afternoon during the work week. It's just absolutely insane to me. And I get it. You want to maximize. Right now in front of me is Yankees versus Red Sox. So you want to maximize that. You want to put them on in the prime time. But baseball can also put multiple games on at once. It is the playoffs for crying out loud. That game should have been a 6-7 o'clock night game at Wrigley. There's another day game tomorrow. That doesn't make any sense to me. But
exactly, yeah, another 2:00 game tomorrow. But that aside, the little Cubs, the little Bears, I should say, the Cubs win, and we are talking Bears on this show of ours, of course, and we'll talk about that Raiders game as the Bears improved to 2-2. 2-2 never tasted so good for this Bears team, I guess. Maybe should be 3-1. We'll talk about that all. Takeaways from that game as the Bears are now in the bye week, so they get to take that week off at getting healthy at the right time. Talk about offensive line notes, talk about head coaching notes, and all of that in between. NFL news later in the show as well. And yeah, we'll talk about Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl, getting the Super Bowl gig. Exciting stuff. You feeling good, Ross? Summer rolls on into October here for last day of September with us.
It still feels like summer outside right now. It's amazing. I got a birthday coming up on this Thursday. Usually it's about 45, 50 degrees by now. And then I get to actually celebrate and keep the patio furniture out this weekend. And enjoy a little bourbon, a little mezcal, cigar, and it's still beautiful outside. So I cannot complain. The Bears are on a 2-game winning streak as well. So it feels good in Chicago. You got playoff baseball. You got your team on a bye week, so you don't have to worry about the anxiousness of a game this week. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the weather. And
the globe is indeed warming for good or for bad. At least we're getting nice weather into Ross's birthday. So happy birthday, early birthday to you, sir. Go wish him an early happy birthday, folks. I got to take us to Chance the Rapper next Friday, and if it keeps up like this, it'll be real nice. It's the Northerly Island, so I would take this weather. We shall see how that show goes. But let's talk about it to start. Got the bye week coming up, so nothing to preview. So let's dive into the good and the bad of that Raiders game, because there was a lot of both. It certainly was up in the air. Just going back to say that first quarter for the Bears, you had 3 turnovers. Geno Smith doing Geno Smith things, and then Tyreek Stevenson causing that Ashton Genty fumble, or however that happened, converting to 3 points where, it should have been many more points. You're really missing Darnell Wright, you feel like, who was a scratch for that game, in addition to TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon, and we knew Jalen Johnson would be playing. But, in terms of the offense, it was kind of what you would expect from Caleb Williams, kind of up and down. we see, Caleb, that interception that Crosby got, I don't entirely put on him, but maybe it's a throw you never make to, because it looked like even if he had gotten that off past the line, it would be into double coverage. So Caleb getting that rhythm going into, the next drives into the second quarter. It was the Cole Kmet drive, as active as he was. Bad drop in the red zone. He had a couple drops at that dime along the sideline, we remember. Things like the fumble he luckily fell in to avoid a turnover, and another fumble later in the game that we'll talk about. It was caused by him getting scared of Max Crosby, I think, who was all over the field in the first half, and then the Bears seemed to make those necessary adjustments into that second half. So again, I feel like the offense, it's kind of what you figured. There were nerves. They had to. The big story this week is, certainly Braxton Jones getting benched in that game, and Theo Benedette taking over, moving from right tackle to left, and then Ozzie getting in and having to face Max Crosby and get his first real reps, really getting thrown in right away. In the first half compared to the second half, Ross, it's certainly a tale of two different offenses, and I feel like, what were you thinking when you saw Braxton Jones got pulled? Was it deserving? And just your impressions right away seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you listen to Ben Johnson after the game, and he praised Theo Benedette's ability to really control things in the run game from the left side. And I think when you look at the season as a whole, Braxton is he's been adequate to okay in pass protection. He's been very bad in getting this run game going. And I think at this point, the reason why the Bears, despite the fact that they had so many turnovers or able to generate so many turnovers, they left so many points on the table. You can count the bad drops from Cole Kmet and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they have not been able to get this running game going. I know that has to frustrate Ben Johnson, because he really wanted that to be a hallmark for this offense and something for them to lean on and really propel them to the next level. And he hasn't been able to get there yet. 2.7 yards per carry, on Sunday's game. But it looked better, coincidentally, in the second half when Braxton Jones got out of there. And if you look at the game-winning touchdown to DeAndre Swift, it was to the left side, and he was able to get to the corner and get to the end zone and score. And so, Braxton really just became a huge liability, specifically in the run game, which is something that they have to get going. You have to get this. You have to have some semblance of balance in your offense. And heading into the bye week, you probably thought it was a perfect time. So it sounds like you're going to get Darnell Wright back on the right side. Theo Benedette is going to move to the left side and be your starting left tackle. Not ideal in passing situations because he's got very short arms, but he held up well for the most part. And they're going to be able to help him. They're going to be able to chip with the tight ends and running backs. But most importantly, you got to keep a defense off balance and not rely so much heavily on Caleb's arm and legs. They got to get this running game going. And so they need a little bit of a spark. Now is the perfect time to do it. You got to extend the time off with the bye. Monday Night Football game as well. So extra day with that too.
Yeah, I mean, for having replaced Braxton Jones with Theo Benedette, and again, Ozzie Tripio getting those first reps, which I'll kind of go over his performance shortly. It was, your team should have been up 21-7 in the half, perhaps. You figure with those turnovers, with the momentum there. And I'm just, a number of reasons, you're not pleased with that first half performance. I think the play calling was just kind of subpar. It really, and I get it, when you can't run the football, it just makes you real one-dimensional. It's brutal to see that offense in progress at times. The whole unit was kind of let down in that first half, again, by not getting into the end zone. Ultimately they did, of course, but the forcing the turnovers, giving up a couple touchdowns to Genty. Like, now we also saw on the other side of the ball with Genty, he has arrived and he was just picking apart that defense. And the Bears have been suspect to, running backs like Jahmyr Gibbs so far this season and elite running backs, if you will. And so the rookie really gave it to him. Again, 95 total yards in the half, though, is crazy. Off 3 turnovers, you should have been punching in. The points are really what hurts more when the Bears, were behind going into the half there. To start the second half, what I was alluding to earlier, Tyreek Stevens getting that interception. When you're forcing all these turnovers, it seems like a completely different game. The fake flea flicker with a face mask penalty on Swift, you're starting to see a little of Ben Johnson's cute plays there. I don't know how you felt about that, Ross, but again, to the performance with Benedette and Ozzie with tough assignments, really settling in. They performed all right. Bears getting that touchdown finally after the Stevenson interception, a nice Caleb drive. We've seen Roma Dunze now score in 4 straight games. I mean, it's pretty incredible to see his growth and him taking over. And again, like the throws that Caleb can make on the run, like the one where Komet dropped along the sideline, was so impressive. And you saw towards the end of the game where it really mattered what you wanted, him going down, milking clock. It was a long drive for the Bears, for them to go and score with, within the 2-minute warning, more or less, with 2-ish minutes to go. You didn't get the 2-point conversion, but you needed the 6. That's what really matters. It was a mediocre day for Swift, like you talked about in this running game. We still just haven't really seen them get it going, but it was pretty balanced in that drive. Whether Caleb had to duck and cover and run, or DeAndre Swift, they just couldn't run between the tackles. In the fourth quarter, you saw a little more of that, and then the accuracy of Caleb Williams and just being able to drive them down the field. And then, of course, that block, super impressive, which I saw that the Bears long snapper had called to Josh Blackwell and said, hey, look out for this. He moves, so you're going to know when to get the early jump on him, which is a terrible tell. If you're a long snapper, you got to fix that if you're the Raiders. But a win is a win is a win. It's up and down as it was. You see that this was kind of what we talked about with, Braxton Jones. The concerns were there, and whatever plays you pointed to in the first half early on, where he gets pulled. Like, this is what Ben Johnson. He's still, not particularly sold on Theo Benedict, perhaps, but it's what you really needed from your third round pick and Ozzie Trapillo too, to see him and get out there and get these reps at this point. And you see what you got finally too. And what I saw from Ozzie was super impressive, being thrown in like that. That's what you ask from your rookie tackle in that position. How it shakes out, in this bye week, they got a lot of time to think about it and practice and see who fits where. But certainly Darnell Wright, hopefully getting healthy, taking back over that right tackle spot. And then you figure Benedette and maybe Trapillo vying for that left tackle spot at this point. But I obviously getting the win, it's where you want to be in that win column. Special teams, for how bad the Bears have been. Again, getting into that position, they allowed like a 40-yard kickoff, and then they blocked that field goal ultimately. Man, it'll give you a heart attack, these Bears games. Very close. Fizo Joe, shout out to him. He was, and then the Chicago fans all really took over. Is I feel like more than 50-50 Bears fans than Raiders fans, as much as you feel like this is a home game for the Raiders. It's really just such a big travel destination. Other thoughts on how they finished the game, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're going back to the tackle situation, right? Ozzie Trapillo's first offensive snap was right before the end of the second quarter. I think it was like 3 minutes, 55 seconds left in the second quarter. So at that point, Ben Johnson had seen enough of this offense and seen enough of the running game and seen enough of Braxton Jones. He wanted him out of there. And, Ozzie played solid. I think that's a tough spot for him to go. His first real NFL action on the road against an all-pro who was having an all-world game in Max Crosby. At the end of the day, Ozzie played 40 snaps against Max Crosby. 26 of them were pass attempts, 14 were rushing. And most importantly, he was able to keep Caleb Williams clean. There were 2 hurries, there were no sacks, no quarterback hits. He did get a lot of help. I noticed there were a lot more tight ends chipping on that side. I noticed Caleb in the pocket was moving a little bit more to the left side, and Caleb was able to step up into the pocket and take off when he needed to, or get the football out of there, which I think is a huge improvement over what Caleb did last year, which was hold on to the football and really hunt for the big play. I think, Ozzie's a second-round pick. He's also a natural right tackle. So I think in the future, that's where his position is going to be at. They tried to put him there at left tackle. I think Ben Johnson was pretty coy throughout training camp and heading into the season. At the end of the day, it sounds like it didn't go well. And, Olin Kreutz will always make an example, and guys like Cal Long, they'll always say, if you've been wiping your butt your whole life with your right hand, It's really hard to just go ahead and start wiping it for the first time with your left hand. And I think that's where you're at with Ozzie. I think as you look at Darnell Wright, not this year, but going into the offseason into next year, a couple things. Number one, he's your most athletic offensive lineman, and he's your most blue chip offensive lineman at this point. Joe Tooney is a little up in age at this point, even though he's been very good. Darnell Wright also wants to make a lot of money. He's due for some new paper sooner than later. I think he is going to want to and accept the challenge of moving to the left side in the offseason. And I think next year you're going to see Darnell Wright be your left tackle, Ozzie be your starting right tackle. And obviously we've seen the end of the Braxton Jones experience in Chicago. You don't pull a guy, in the second quarter of a game like that and think you're going to go back to him. I think we're going to see Theo, for the most part, unless he just looks like a complete abomination, be the left tackle for the rest of the season. Darnell Wright, your right tackle. Ozzie will back him up, and then the offseason, you're going to flip it. But it's a credit. It's the coaching staff, right? Like this, he was more proactive than I think the last guy was reactive. I think that's been the tune this entire season so far. A small sample size, 4 games, but Ben Johnson is not afraid to shake things up, be more proactive, and put his team in a position to win the football game when they need to. I even think about the last drive of the game. You think about it, the Raiders, the kick is blocked, right? But he would have had, let's say the kick goes through, he would have had 38 seconds left on the clock and 2 timeouts. And I feel very confident that he would have been, like Caleb Williams would have been able to go down the field and get them in field goal range and kick a walk-off field goal. And that's just not something I could have said last year with Matt Eberflus. So even though they got the block and they secured the win on that, he still was thinking ahead and said, listen, I need to preserve time for my quarterback, preserve time for my kicker, keep these timeouts. And we've already walked down the field on them once already. We could do this again, even if this kick goes through. And that's just a mark of a good and growing head coach. I do think he made mistakes in week 1 with clock management. He's already gotten better 3 games later.
Yeah, that's an important fact, right, Ross? When you think about between this and last year, when you see that that there's time left, 2 minutes, whatever it was, a minute and a half, I think, for the Raiders to go down the field, you allow that kickoff return that was 40 plus yards, whatever. You're like, here we go again. It's like Eberflus where they're able to just lose these games late. I agree with that, and I think coaching, goes a long way, especially when you think about how Al Harris has been handling the defensive backs, and Kyler Gordon's been out, and just losing Jalen Johnson, it's huge, and kind of figuring out the scheme. Geno Smith, maybe not the best example, and take that Detroit game out of it, but figuring out how to get these wins when you need them. And Ben Johnson, it's interesting too. He did the thing that he thought was right in benching Braxton Jones, and it eventually paid off. And, going forward, it will be telling to see how that plays out, of course, with Benedette and Trapil and Darnell Wright. I love that scenario, talking about Darnell Wright moving to the left side, potentially, and Ozzie Trapil on the right, because that's what you draft Trapil for, to be a part of this starting unit going forward. But Ben Johnson, kind of under fire, and I think he handled it really well this week, and maybe another coach wouldn't have as well. With CBS's, sideline report at the beginning of the second half, he looked a little curt. And basically, just it was loud and he couldn't hear was the way that I interpreted it. I think it was like Emmanuel Acho or someone like that was saying, it's a bad look for him talking over her, but it was loud. He misheard her basically. And he said, quote, "I'm a little disappointed with how that looks. I didn't hear her very well. That's not an excuse. What was a question I took as being told I needed to change the offense," was kind of what she said. And she owned up to it on another show program today, just talking about, it was kind of on both ends. It was just an awkward interview. So, him ultimately saying I have to be better with those things going forward is just, a mark of a coach who's learning, got his first road victory. It's big, 800th franchise win for the Bears. it's big for this football team. When you thought about it, it was a must win, as we talked about, and we hate to kind of throw that cliche around. But going into the bye week, you know what you have to work on. Obviously, getting healthy speaks for itself, and figuring out your offensive line to get some consistency for Caleb Williams is so paramount. But when you go into another road game right off the bye week on Monday Night Football, when it was that same team where it was kind of a tipping point last year and just sent you into a 9-game skid or whatever that was, you want to get that really badly. So now these guys get to reset. And again, going back, credit to Caleb Williams showing poise. As much as it's called by Ben Johnson and the other offensive coaching staff, he has to execute out there on an 11-play drive. It was well called, the best called drive of the game. Mixed it up, and hopefully they figure out those things again. The running game, very important. You're not going to fix not having a Genty back there or a Jahmyr Gibbs. You have DeAndre Swift, so you got to do what you can do between him and Kyle Monangai going forward. But all again, outside of a few miscues, we even saw Torrey Taylor like coffin corner punt. You need to see those little things will add up as the competition certainly gets tougher. And it's going to be a long second half of the season when you get a bye week this early.
Yeah, but that bye week, I think, comes at a perfect time, right? Because they were, credit, we talk about coaching, credit to Dennis Allen. I think he's done a solid job right now with the guys that they're putting back there in the secondary. They're just absolutely depleted. And somehow, some way, they were able to still be in position to have 3 turnovers from Geno Smith, three interceptions, which was huge. And they now have 9 takeaways on the season, which is 3rd in the NFL right now. And I think when you look at the defense that is missing Jalen Johnson, that's missing Kyler Gordon, that's missing TJ Edwards, right? Like, I think for them to be able to pull that off, they didn't have Grady Jarrett on Sunday as well. It's still really impressive. And now these guys can get healthy. And I'm expecting, coming off the bye week, you have Kyler Gordon back, and you have TJ Edwards back, and I think Grady Jarrett will be back, and you start to get more reinforcements. I think Jalen's going to be out for a while, and also, so that's credit to Dennis Allen and Al Harris for coaching these guys up. Also, credit to Tyreek Stevenson, who looked like barbecue chicken in week 1, and we all remember what happened to him last year in Washington. I think he's been balling ever since. Obviously he didn't look good either in Detroit, but these last 2 games, he's looked really, really good. He had another key turnover on Sunday as well, forced turnover. So I think that's also credit to coaching staff for staying on him, keeping him motivated, keeping him poised, and keeping him locked in. And I think he's responded very well. So, usually you don't want to see your early bye week, but I think for where they're at right now, they've got a couple things to fix. They got to get healthy. They got to figure out this left tackle situation. They got to get in the lab. They got to retweak this running game and get that thing going. And it's just a good mental, physical reset for a lot of guys right now that probably need it. It's a young quarterback. He's starting to feel it a little bit, but I think it's a good break for him, especially going back into a house of horrors from what he remembers last year. In Washington, it's also it's a home game for Caleb, but he's from the DMV area, so I know he's going to be extra amped up for that. We're probably going to get Jaden Daniels back too, so you're going to get you're going back to that 1 versus 2 situation, and those guys are going to be pitted against each other for the next 10 plus years. So yeah, I think what I saw from that Raiders, what I saw from the victory on Sunday with the Raiders is a team starting to come together and believe in each other. And you can see it, you can feel it. Even what you said with the long snappers, like, hey, Josh, he's moving. Like everybody's just starting to kind of pick each other up a little bit and really come together. And I think that's important. They're starting to buy into this coaching staff, and they're starting to believe, most importantly, that they can win football games. I didn't think they had that last year. And that's starting to change. If you get guys buying in, and you get veterans like Byard who are really balling out, this guy's a 10-year veteran. And all of a sudden they're feeding off his energy and things like that. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're starting to build a foundation of a team that could be really good within the next couple of years. Hopefully they can win anywhere between 8 to 10 games this year, but you're really starting to kind of stack it and go for it next year. And then the last thing is, I think Caleb Williams is starting to look really comfortable and really poised in the football field. He's got full command of this offense right now. He's got full command of that huddle. He looks really good when he's back there in the pocket. Again, Max Crosby was all over the place on Sunday. You know, he had that one interception that was batted up in the air, but all in all, Caleb only took one sack. And I think that's just growth as well from what you've seen over the last year. So arrows pointing up, good mental reset, physical reset for them. Also a good reset for Bears fans because it's been a very stressful 4 games already. So enjoy football this weekend without having to stress about your team. And if you peek ahead to the schedule, there's some winnable games out there. There's some teams out there. When you talk about how banged up the Bears are, you've got Washington on the schedule coming up, and they're banged up. And McLaurin is banged up. You and I will be in Baltimore in a few weeks. They're on the schedule. Lamar Jackson might miss a few weeks with the injury. Their defense right now is decimated.
All-pro defensive tackle. They're
absolutely. Down. Yeah, Cleveland is on the schedule soon, and you see what they're going through. The Saints are on the schedule. The Giants just lost neighbors for the season. They're coming up as well. So all of a sudden, you're like, there's some winnable games on this schedule coming up here, and the Bears have to take full advantage of it.
When you have that extra time to prepare for Washington, I 100% agree. Just, peeking at the stats, you talked about Caleb Williams and, 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He's almost at 1,000 yards. He's pretty much on pace for that 4,000 yards. You figure he'll even get more comfortable as the season goes on. It's all about Rome Odunze as far as receiving goes, almost 300 yards, averaging almost 15 yards a catch, 5 touchdowns already. Just a monster and what everything is advertised. You would think we didn't really talk about Cole Kmet. He had those 2 false starts. It was pretty bad. He had some key catches, very mixed. I know he had a lot of pressure because Loveland's not out there. You would hope that Colston Loveland comes out swinging and he becomes, even more involved in the offense, in terms of him. And we didn't even really mention Luther Burden's name once during that game. So it's kind of back and forth. You figure those rookies are going to need, more time to get settled in. But you talked about Byard. Ben Johnson was saying good, better, best. It was Byard on defense, Caleb Williams on offense, and then Josh Blackwell getting that special teams block. It was a whole team effort, completely necessary to get that win when you pretty much kept Crosby in check, in that second half, save for a few plays where, Caleb's running for his life. Again, the defense without TJ Edwards, without Kyler Gordon, without Grady Jarrett, I think played pretty well. Obviously forcing Geno Smith just giving the Bears every opportunity as Geno Smith does with these interceptions. He's just going to sling it. But now you figure you need to see a pass rush. As you talked about, Jaden Daniels probably going to be healthy, probably going to be ready for that game against the Bears on a Monday night. But Terry McLaurin's banged up. I feel like Washington, maybe not the same team with momentum as last year, and you're seeing on top of injury, a little bit of a slump from Jaden Daniels. And then the rest of that schedule is looking pretty fair with these teams that are trending down. When you got some terrible teams and the Saints, the Ravens, as you mentioned, trending down. The Bengals going to be without Joe Burrow for a while till like December. The Giants, and then you get into that tough, final whatever it is 8-game stretch where it'll be real rough. But if you can build some momentum off Washington, it's going to be huge. And to get these guys healthy, who TJ Edwards practiced today, Kyler Gordon practiced today, you're going to get Loveland back most likely, and Darnell Wright. If you get that full complement, it feels like they should be able to do that. And I again echo what you said about Ben Johnson and how different this is than last year with Eberflus, and the wheels just completely fell off. Largely because of the coaching, but just because of the whole team. Not executing, not finishing games, losing those close games, all stemming from that Hail Mary at Washington. Now completely different, and it couldn't be a better time by, as you said. I'm excited to see how this team continues to evolve this offense. I think Caleb Williams, as advertised, I feel like there's a lot of talk about Drake May. I feel like I saw a headline talking about he was playing the best of the quarterbacks from last year's draft. I'd like to see Caleb Williams obviously overtake that narrative. At this point, under this offense and the way he's built, his comfort level and the decision making. He had a couple, that fumble that set him up at like 3rd and 30 or whatever it was that went through his hands on a shotgun was pretty bad, falling on a fumble. But he has been where he's been mistake prone in the past. It feels like he is learning from his mistakes. So if you continue that learning curve, that is huge.
100%. And I think, we are such a microwave society, and we want to, we want our results now. But what you're seeing is you're seeing tangible growth week after week from Caleb Williams, which is exactly what you want. Again, new system, new head coach, questionable run game, questionable protection on the left side, on the right side, things like that. And then we also remember, the disaster of last season. And then you look up, and this guy is on track right now. And his career started in terms of touchdowns to interception ratio. It's the best from a first overall pick ever.
Yep.
And so you start to remember. Listen, the reason why these guys go first overall is because these teams suck, and they're bad, and some of them are able to overcome it. Right. If you watch the Dallas Cowboys doc on Netflix, it took Troy Aikman a few years to get good. He didn't just show up and get good right away. And we know about Peyton Manning, how many interceptions he threw to start his career, and the beating that Andrew Luck took. And those are just the good ones that we've seen actually make it and be something, be Hall of Fame players. There are a lot of first overall picks that just don't have the resiliency and things like that. That's what bothers me when people talk about Caleb Williams because he paints his nails or he does this or that, or he wears colors or clothes. This guy's tough, and he's very resilient, and he plays every game. He gets up after every hit, and I think he's really starting to figure some things out. It's going to be very fun to see what he looks like in the second quarter of the season. And then certainly in the back half of the season when things get really, really, spooky in terms of a schedule standpoint. And then even with the quarterbacks thing, Drake May had a great game on Sunday. He was awesome. I think hopefully we can get to a point where we can stop pitting these young men against each other. And even that's, from Caleb to Drake May to Jaden Daniels, except JJ McCarthy, get his ass out of here. But hopefully we can start, because the league needs all of these guys to succeed to be able to keep the torch going.
They're the future.
We don't have Joe Burrow right now, right? Like there's guys that are banged up right now and hurt and there are guys that we have lost from generations past, and Aaron Rodgers is kind of the last man standing from that. So we need as many good quarterbacks as possible, especially if you watch a football game last night. I watched 2 games last night. I had to watch Tua Tagovailoa versus Justin Fields, which is brutal. And then you flip to the other TV, and it's Bo Nix versus Jake Browning. And I'm just like, oh, it's just so depressing. So we need some of these guys. Hopefully May, Caleb, and Daniels are the future and can ascend to being perennial Pro Bowl players, because that's only going to make the league better.
How dare you slander Bo Nix's name? Balled out, 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. He's a fantasy monster. Look at this guy.
Like the sisters of the poor defense.
It's not sexy. That's true. He's playing some trash competition. This Bengals team without Joe Burrow just unwatchable.
They're on the schedule coming up in a couple weeks for the Bears, so make them still be bad. That's an 11-2 game. That's right around your birthday.
Take advantage of that. Yeah, buddy. Go to another road game for real cheap. It helps J.K. Dobbins helping out there. And again, I think to the point about these quarterbacks and narrative of them, it's the nature of competition, and we just need to. I feel like the media likes to just compare and see, who is going to be this face going forward. Without Jaden Daniels in that conversation, it muddles it. I feel like Drake made good for him because, he was in a similar position last year. It seemed to be really thrown to the wolves. All these guys, that was saved for Jaden Daniels, I feel like just really high hopes and underperforming to that end. But Caleb Williams, you see it play after play, man, with the putting it all together and the accuracy, the arm strength. If he can put it all together consistently going forward with the full complement of talent around him, he should be far and away that best amongst that competition. And hopefully at that conversation of who's going to be that next Pat Mahomes or those guys in that conversation, Jalen Hurts, these guys who are winning titles right now. So Bears getting that rest at the right time. No other real notes on that for me. Caleb Williams, again, just so young at 23 and just feeling like very positively about him and his performance in this Bears team as a whole. Ben Johnson, it just, I want to see them see a team. I'm not sure if it'll be Washington, but just dominate a game, like smack them in the mouth right away. It wasn't the time or place with the Raiders, but certainly must have been real fun for Bears fans out in that environment when it was pretty competitive. Just from the onset, that first quarter was so nuts with the turnovers. And then the finish, it just had everything you could want in a really nice stadium. But get the rest they need now and don't get into trouble for the younger guys and on to Washington on another Monday night game.
Yeah, you take any win you can get at this point in the league,
No
however you can get them. I thought that was a great team win on Sunday. My last note, speaking on the halftime interview situation and just Ben in general, he's on the sidelines. He looks like he's, there's a meme going around. He doesn't need smelling salts. And shout out to Jacob Infante. I saw his post on that found itself on TikTok today, and it said Ben Johnson's a psychopath. Never change. Never change. That is exactly what the fan base loves. I think the team feeds off of it. And that's kind of what you want from your head coach. You want some energy. You want some passion. I don't think he did anything wrong in that interview. It was loud in there, like you said. He misheard her. He thought that she was coming after his team, and he responded by defending his team. It's fine. He apologized. He's a grown man. She's a grown woman. She's a professional. Everybody is okay. It didn't need to be some big. I saw a radio segment on it the next day on a Monday. I was like, good God, what are we doing here? We are all adults at this point. Let's move on. It's fine. It's fine. And I never want him to change his demeanor and how he is on game day, because I think that's important. I think that football team feeds off it, and they need it. When he screams good, better, best, and everything at the end, like when they win a football game, it's like, how are you not get juiced up as a fan and as a player that your head coach has this kind of passion?
Yeah, I like that point too, especially. It hasn't been as infectious for a long time. I go back to Matt Nagy and his boom celebration in the locker rooms, and he just was a fiery guy, a la, what Ben Johnson brings to the table now. Obviously different head coaching personalities, and he's figuring out his personality as it goes along. So, it's forgotten now. It's in the past at this point. As of week 4, I wouldn't say forgotten. I mean, like you mentioned, with Malik Neighbors getting hurt for the Giants, just rough to see these injuries to star players. It's bad for the league, bad for certainly the Giants when, it seemed like they were going to get rolling and maybe have Jackson Dart and have some success going forward. And then to lose him is awful. And then Tyreek Hill with the most gruesome injury so far with his, it was confirmed to be a torn ACL that he got operated on today, I think. And agent says he's fine playing 2026. But I mean, that's the type of injury, it'd be curious, shout out to Mason, to hear what he would have to say. Another, Second City Gridiron host of Bare Bones, what he would have to say on an injury like this and his ligament damage and everything that goes into it when he's built for speed. The Cheetah's not getting any younger too. But brutal again for the Dolphins getting that win and then getting your star receiver lost for the year. And yeah, like you said, the Jets are just so garbage. And as great as an athlete as Justin Fields is, he just can't will them to a win as they're 0-4 and at the bottom of the league. They're just in that same conversation as the Titans, who couldn't put up any points against the Titans this past week. You talk about the Browns and how bad they are, and they're just, at this point, doing themselves a disservice when you're putting no disrespect to Joe Flacco, to God, who is Super Bowl champion, but he's also 40 at this point, or I don't know, 40 something. He's old, and you're not, I don't know if Shadur is the answer. I don't know if one of these other guys in the conversation, who's Gabriel, is he still on the roster? Like,
sounds like he's going to start this week. Yeah.
Yeah. So to that end, I think it's about time. And you're only, again, doing yourselves a disservice if you don't just trot him out there and see what you have at quarterback. The Saints no direction whatsoever and got beat, of course, by a Super Bowl contending team in the Bills. But you love to see them come to Soldier Field in a couple weeks, few weeks. But the tops of the league, I mean, don't look now, but the Steelers are 3-1 in that weird Dublin game, and old man Aaron Rodgers got it done in the early game. But the Bills unstoppable. I think the Lions showing us that they haven't lost a step once again. Chargers dropping their first to the Giants, as we talked about. Eagles going into a tough game and a tough environment against the Buccaneers, winning 31-25. And as bad as this passing game is, they're just getting it done through defense and I suppose the running game, and mostly defense and turnovers. But the Colts and the Rams was a great one too, and both those teams kind of sneaky good. I mean, we knew the Colts were good going into this, but the Rams don't look now. They're making a run with Matt Stafford throwing for almost 400 yards. The 49ers, they can just get healthy. They're a 3-1 team, and the Jaguars are 3-1. They got a win that was much needed. And you saw, who you taking in the fight, Liam Cohen or Robert Saleh?
Robert Saleh is jacked and also has like 7 kids. So give me that guy.
Him and his kids going at it. We saw the Chiefs and the Ravens 37-20. The Chiefs, it's 2-2, but perhaps they're back. Mahomes throwing for 4 touchdowns. And then, man, Ross, do we need to change this overtime rule or what? Like 40-40, and then we have to end it after one overtime? Just feels nuts to me. My fantasy team thanks the NFL for this, but if those two teams stayed out, I would have lost. It's nuts to me that we still are in 2025 and we can end in a tie, especially 40-40 game. Neither team deserves that, even the Cowboys and Packers.
Yeah, they don't. I'm as in true older millennial fashion. I was fine with the old rule, which was, the old rule was whoever scored first win the game. At the end of the day, I thought defense and special teams was a part of the game as well. If you don't want them to score, or you stop them. But I was fine. I thought the compromise was you go touchdown, game's over, field goal, then the other team gets to have a touchdown to win the game and that kind of thing. So this new rule, I don't like it. If anything, if I were to change anything to it, I think that the 10 minutes is too short of amount of time, because if a team just goes on a 5-6 minute drive, then that's it. They're going to eat up all the time. I'd make that at least 12 minutes, maybe preferably 15 minutes. That's the only thing that I would really change is at least if you're going to go this route, change the amount of time. But it was the most exciting game from the week. I had fun. I'm usually in bed on a Sunday night by 9 o'clock. I could not turn that off. I stayed up and watched the whole thing. And shout out to the Cowboys. They were able to get a tie out of that when everybody thought that they were going to get smoked when Michael Parsons came back to Dallas. And if you're a Green Bay fan, it's disappointing. A tie is like kissing your sister, but also on a Tuesday night, you're used to kissing your sister in Green Bay. So,
oh, it's a hell of a Tuesday night in Green Bay. You snuck that in there, Rob. I liked it, man. They'll get some laughter from me for sure. But yeah, like you said, I mean, overtime rule aside, both these teams just offensive machines during this whole course of that game. I mean, Jordan Love, the legend grows, 3 touchdowns, and Dak Prescott without CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens stepped in big time, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, this is that time of year where you're seeing sort of contenders, pretenders, and it'll be interesting to see in, December what these teams are doing at this point, because there's several 3-1 teams, the Seahawks, and you can throw the Steelers in there. You could throw, the Chargers, Colts, Rams. They're just like 49ers, Jaguars. You're not sure if they're quite for real or if this is going to last, based on kind of early on projections at this time. But what what is certain is that the Eagles and the Bills know that they are favorites and playing like that to win both their conferences. What Josh Allen is doing, he just makes it look easy. Whoever's out there, the defense really picking things up as well. And again, the Eagles, what they're able to do, again, despite Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown just not being happy, what else is doing? Devontae Smith not getting involved, perhaps a more down year for Saquon Barkley. winning these games and to being undefeated the way they've been playing so far is really nuts to me. I don't know what you think about pretenders or contenders at this point outside of those guys, Ross. I'll let you chime in.
No, I think that was it. I think a huge win for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs pulled. I think the Chiefs. I think the Ravens took their foot off the gas in the second half after they knew they were going to get blown out. And it's clear the Ravens are the year from hell team this year. Last year was the 49ers with all the injuries. This year it's the Ravens, and you have to start to wonder if at some point they just kind of take their foot off the gas on the season altogether, and maybe they put Lamar on ice a little bit longer and just say, you know what, it's just not our year, and we're gonna just kind of let the season go out and kind of lick our wounds in the off season and go back again. Big win for the Jaguars, I thought, going on the road. Brock Purdy got back in there, and they were able to get a punt return TD from Washington, which was huge. I thought Etienne was awesome for them. That 49ers defense was just a little shaky, especially down the stretch there. And then, to me, the Titans. You start looking at head coaches getting fired, and Brian Callahan. You should probably call Redfin and start to put your house on the market in the Nashville area, because clock's ticking, big dog. You are 0-4 right now. You got shut out 26-0 by the Texans team, who was really struggling coming into this. Cam Ward, 10 for 26, 108 yards, 1 interception, 0 touchdowns, and he only had 2 rushes for 22 yards. And you spend a first overall pick on a guy like that, and you get those kind of numbers coming back. You talk about coaching and like what first overall picks have to go through. This is a complete microcosm of the exact wrong thing you want your first overall pick to do. And so I expect Callahan to maybe get fired in season. If not, he's definitely going to get fired in the offseason. But the Titans right now are struggling. You start looking around the league, Titans, Jets, Browns, Saints. It's like, if you put all those teams together, can they combine for 10 to 12 wins this year? I think the league is very bottom heavy this year. I was going to say top heavy. They're very bottom heavy this year. There are some bad football teams out there, and that this could go on for a long time. I don't. Some of these teams could start off 0-8, 0-9, and before they, some of them do have to eventually face each other. So somebody's going to win, but it's going to be rough this year. And then if you do need a quarterback, like the Saints do, like the Browns do, and you've been watching college football this year, that ain't looking too pretty either, because there's not one guy that's standing out from a quarterback prospect that you would want to take potentially in the top 3 this year. So it's bleak right now for some teams.
Valid point. Just awful. And again, just not a ton of positives. Again, you think about the Giants, Jackson Dart, maybe they'll start, even losing Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson could pick it up. Cam Scatterbo has been a great pickup for them. He's a dog. And between him and Jackson Dart, they could have some fire going in and some winnable games going forward. But the Saints, really awful. The Titans, again, with Cam Ward, quite a disappointment. Just garbage. And you get to see a couple of those teams play each other. The Giants and the Saints, matching up. That's pretty awful. And then the Vikings and Browns this week in the London game. We always need a London game. The primetime game on Thursday with the 49ers and Rams will be must-see TV, of course. And then you figure, again, bad games. Cowboys, stinging from that tie. They should go and beat the Jets pretty handily, one would think. Dolphins and Panthers reeling. It's a lot of like poor games. Certainly like Texans, Ravens, you figure, one of these teams, they really want the win. We'll see who does it better. CJ Stroud off to a pretty poor start, and Lamar Jackson, if he doesn't play, you're going to give the edge to Houston, one would think here. Bucks Seahawks, that best afternoon game, I feel like at this point, and then a good Sunday nighter, Patriots Bills, and then Chiefs Jaguars, actually with some good potential at this time. A good slate. I again just stand by the Bills and the Eagles as far as the favorites in those conferences. It's been fun to see the AFC, who's been stepping up, when the Chiefs have struggled like this, to see Again, the Jaguars kind of make a resurgence under Liam Cohen. We talked about what's it just now, the Colts, and how they've been off to a hot start with Daniel Jones in a new spot. It's impressive. And then you get those buys. There's 4 teams on a buy all of a sudden here, so we're gonna have to adjust to that. If you lost Malik Neighbors and you lost Tyreek Hill, you're going to get some bad trade offers. Just expect it if you're a fantasy football team manager.
Or you're putting in waiver claims tomorrow for Wando Robinson and a bunch of other guys.
I already had them stashed, baby.
There you go. That are out there. Yeah, this week you get potentially, if Jaden Daniels comes back, 3 second-year quarterbacks on the road against tough defenses. And I think that's what I'm going to be looking out for. Bo Nix in Philly. God bless, big dog.
Good boy.
Yep, we'll see. Let's see what happens there. Jaden Daniels, if he plays, he's going to be against the Chargers, which that's a pretty feisty defense as well. And then I'm actually kind of excited for the Sunday night game. You get Drake May in Buffalo. And Buffalo's defense this year, they've been scored on, and right now the Bills are favored by 7.5. That's a little bit high. We saw the Saints being able to hang in there for about 3.5 quarters this past Sunday, and the Saints stink. So I think the Patriots are playing better football. I can see Drake May kind of keeping that game close a little bit. Now, can they slow down Josh Allen on the other side? That's the thing. Probably not. That guy is looking like he's probably going to go back-to-back on MVP this year.
Unbelievable performance by Josh Allen so far.
Yep.
On the note of the last note I got is, of course, Benito and Bad Bunny getting the nod to go to the Super Bowl halftime show, to headline the Super Bowl halftime show. Puerto Rico, rejoice. Yes. Do you like it? Who would have been second to Bad Bunny? And just as far as, the pop culture, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to see Taylor Swift. I don't really want to see Sabrina Carpenter. I think the Bad Bunny brings it. He's collaborated with a lot of good. It's just, I think it's a no-brainer for the NFL, and great. I'm excited for it.
The guy is one of the biggest artists worldwide. He's one of the most streamed artists in the world. If you've ever watched or seen clips from a Bad Bunny concert, that guy packs stadiums, 110,000 people.
Sure does.
And celebrating. I would say this. You don't even have to know Spanish to enjoy his music. Put the music on. He is super, super talented from his singing ability, his rapping ability, but it's just catchy. It makes you feel good. Anybody that's like, I don't like Bad Bunny, I promise you've never even actually given it a chance and played the music. In fact, and this is not an ad, Amazon doesn't pay us, but they should.
Sure don't.
But there is a Bad Bunny concert on Amazon, and I implore everybody, just put it on. Just put it on. Watch him put on the show that he puts on. Watch how people respond to it, and you start to realize, this guy does deserve that opportunity. And to all the people that didn't watch Carmen Sandiego out there or didn't pay attention in fourth grade geography, Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, folks. It is a territory of the United States. It is a part of this country, which means it's a part of our culture and should be celebrated. And as a person who is also Puerto Rican, I can tell you Puerto Ricans also often feel slighted how Americans routinely keep them out of American culture. And Puerto Rican music is American culture, and it should be celebrated. And I'm happy to see him get this opportunity. Like you said, Taylor Swift, the word was she turned it down because she could not get to. Her and the NFL had creative differences, which means she wanted to do what she wanted to do, and the NFL said we couldn't do that. And she's like, "I'm Taylor Swift. I do what I want." I heard the backup was Adele, which I think Adele is an extraordinary singer, but she doesn't do anything. She doesn't move. She doesn't dance. She's
gonna have some dancing at the Super Bowl. Yeah, neither of those. All credit to those talented ladies, but Bad Bunny, he's bringing it. You see it.
Bad Bunny shows up during the Super Bowl. I'm gonna be about 8 Modelo's deep, 16 chicken wings, 3 shots, and you're gonna be dancing your ass off to some Bad Bunny music when you're hammered. Absolutely,
be moving like those Peloton classes that are blasting all of his music.
Yes,
and speaking of Bad Bunny, I'm very pumped to it. I can't understand all the Spanish he's spitting, but it's great. He's got great production behind him. I'll say that. It's unbelievable. And on that note, he's hosting Saturday Night Live, which premieres this Saturday with Doja Cat.
And he'll be able to, which is crazy that he gets a music guest for himself. He can speak English, by the way, too. The guy's been in movies. He's done interviews. Yes, he's been in
and
Train. Yeah, he's been in
latest, was it Aronofsky movie? Why can't I?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of movies, I got an opportunity to see One Battle After Another this past Saturday, and let me tell you, you're not going to see a better movie all year.
Let's go.
That is the movie of the year. That is top 3 PTA Paul Thomas Anderson. Extraordinary performances from Leo to Benicio del Toro. Tiana Taylor's in the movie. Regina Hall is in the movie. Sean Penn is probably going to win an Oscar for the movie. So when you find yourselves out there 2 hours and 45 minutes of your time, please go see One Battle After Another in movie theaters. It is worth it. See it on the biggest screen possible. See it in IMAX if you can. It is an absolutely extraordinary movie that is very fitting for the time as well. I don't want to give away the plot and what goes on, but it is
from the trailers.
It's a masterpiece. Go see it.
Chase Infinity in one of her first leading roles, a young starlet from Columbia, or went to Columbia College from Indianapolis, but excited. Love that cast. I will be seeing it soon. Packed it all in this show, this episode of Mac and Reed. Thanks to everybody for watching, listening in on Spotify, iTunes, on YouTube channel. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Stay tuned for this week and follow us on Twitter at Second City Gridiron for all the show announcements. Again, Making Monsters, Bear and Balance, just endless great programming. I'm at The Real Evan Mac, joined as always by Ross Reed. He's at Ross Reed. Everybody be good to each other out there. Happy early birthday to the one and only Ross Reed, always joining me. 35 years young, looking great. For now, we say deuces. Everybody be good to each other. So long, everybody.